Hey, lifestyle solopreneurs. Today we get to speak with Radon Stancil. He is a best selling author and the founder of Peace of Mind Wealth Management. So that's Peace of Mind, Palm Wealth Management, a firm committed to helping individuals retire with excellence. As the co host of the Secure Your Retirement Show, his insights have been featured in Forbes, Newsweek, Fox, ABC, NBC, and the Wall Street Journal. With over 25 years of experience, Radon is an award winning advisor who is highly sought after to work with executives, business owners, engineers, pharmaceutical professionals, and more. Welcome to the show, Radon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you and having me on.
Yes, and no, it's great to chat with you. Your area of expertise is actually pretty fascinating to me. I'll tell you why. It is one of those things, retirement planning, wealth management. It's something that people tend to think of and give more attention to later in life. Maybe when, there's fewer grains of sand left in the hourglass. And unfortunately, the best time to do your retirement planning is actually much, much earlier because the younger you are when you get started, usually the more strategic and, the more impact that your planning can have. So, I love having you on the show. In particular, if anyone who's listening is on the younger side and is thinking, oh, they're going to talk about retirement, let me go to the next podcast. I'm not going to listen to this one. I'm only, 25 or 30. I would say, please don't switch away right now. This one is especially important for you, as well as really for anybody else. So tell us a little bit about what you do day to day and what retirement planning means to you.
So, what we do now, the context, I agree, but let me just say this first. I agree with you 100% that people should be looking at this much earlier. Um, and it is unfortunate. Most people don't get serious about retirement planning or saving until they're 40. And that is doable, but much more difficult. But what we do is we honestly, in our particular practice, we are taking a person who has made it to the point of being about 10 years from retirement, and helping them basically come in that last little stretch there and get themselves ready to convert from a life of work and saving to a life of retirement. And so we are financial coaches, but we also look at all the different aspects when it comes to their social security or their Medicare or their estate plan or taxes. So we kind of are looking at the whole entire picture. We do have some younger clients that are basically kids or grandchildren of our clients. So we work with them as well. And the basics are the same. It's just that we've got a longer time horizon to get to the point of retirement. But a lot of the last minute planning, when I call that last minute, last 10 years, they're not going to be interested in those things. But the idea of understanding what do I need to do today in order to get to a point of retirement. And by the way, the idea of retirement varies considerably from person to person and based on their goals. One person might say retirement means to me, I don't want to work again and I just want to travel. Another person means I don't want to do this career that I've worked in for the last 30 years. I want to do what I love to do now. And it's not about the money. It's just, I want to do what I love. So there's lots of varieties there. So it's actually very, very fun. We meet a lot of different people with a lot of different goals. And so our day is never the same.
So, what's one of the most unique and kind of interesting, I mean, I venture to say bizarre kind of plans that a client has had, that was just really kind of fun to talk about and very unique?
Well, I mean, I think that, I don't know how bizarre it would be, but I'll just tell you some of the cool things that people have come to us. We had a guy come to us. He was 50, and he said, "I love to scuba dive, and I love to be on a sailboat." He goes, "And I know that I don't want to think about doing that when I'm 65. I want to do it when I'm younger." And he said, "So what I'm thinking about doing is going ahead and leaving this corporate type job that he was at." And we devised a plan that in all essence, he was going to take 2 years and he was going to live on a sailboat and sell and also scuba dive. And he was going to do that for 2 years. And then he would come back and he would just reassess where he was at and maybe consult or do some other things. So we sat down. It took us about a year of work on that to kind of, when I say year, of planning and getting things ready. But he finally did do it, went away, had a great time, came back, and has done other things since then and still has a very good retirement plan. The other one that was kind of neat was we had a couple that came to us, and they had what we had not had really worked with at the time, but their goal was they were going to sell their house. They wanted to retire, and they were going to buy, in all essence, an RV, and they wanted to travel. And we had to come up with a plan. It took us a couple of years to work through that plan, but they finally met that goal, and they have been driving the country now for 7 years. And they tell us stories all the time about what they've been able to do. And obviously they can pick where they want to live based on the weather. And that's not an extraordinarily difficult retirement plan. They just have to kind of know, they had to figure out how they were going to work the money. But those are a couple of experiences that I think are pretty neat ones to tell you about.
I love those stories. I truly do. Those stories make me realize I think retirement has a branding problem. And that's one of the reasons that people wait so long, to start their planning in a lot of cases. I like that there's sort of a movement. It's among the younger folks. It's called FIRE, FIRE. I believe it stands for, don't quote me on this, but I think it's financial independence, retire early, something like that, or financially independent, retire early. And it is all about these millennials and younger trying to it's pretty harsh. I mean, they're like living on just a small percentage of their income, trying to retire in a very accelerated, aggressive timeline, which I'm not sure I'm a fan of that whole thing. I think there's other ways to do it that are a little bit less drastic, but it's interesting that it's sort of become this younger person movement, but I think it's because they branded it with financial independence, retire early, because the word retirement maybe to a lot of people sounds like end of work life, right? Like this time where you are going to sort of stop working and just relax and do things that are more passive, and maybe they tend to connect that with older age. But if instead of retirement we said, hey, uh, not, hey, are you planning for your retirement, but hey, are you working towards financial freedom? Or, oh, someone says, I'm working on my future plan is for work to be optional. I'm calling it my work optional plan. And that's what I'm working on right now, is to structure things so work becomes optional, without really connecting it to older age or any sort of endpoint to your work life. I don't know. That's the marketer in me thinking, can we brand retirement in a way to make it really sexy for the younger folks? Because they're the ones that can make some small moves with huge dividends. Well, actually, literally dividends, in the future. So, what do you think about that? Because you work in that industry. Do you think there is a branding problem?
I think that, yeah. And I think just hearing you say that, I think the whole idea of what financial independence means is probably what I think is probably branded incorrectly as well. And the idea behind that, why I say that, is we get people all the time that have worked decades. They've done a great job of saving. And I could have somebody who walked in the door and they've been a good saver, and they have, and they're 55, 60 years old, and they got 500,000. I've got some people who have 10 million. And I will tell you that between those people, they all have the same worry, and that is, did I save enough? Do I have enough? And what we teach people is, it's saving is important, yes, but it has a lot more to do with how much you spend than how much you have saved. And so when you brought up that whole financial independence and this idea of living on much less than what you earn, if a person could do that and they can come up with that discipline, then you're going to be able to retire extremely early compared to what we've been trained as, I'm trying to have this money that's going to work for me and I don't have to ever work again. So I also think this idea, though, of like this mind shift of, I don't need to be in a position to not do anything, not to work, to produce any income, but understanding that if I had saved enough of money and I have a good spending plan. We like to use spending plan versus budget, because budget sounds negative. Spending plan is a plan on how much I'm going to spend. And so if I could have that mentality, and then say, hey, you know what? I can work from time to time, or I might have a side job or a side business that I'm going to do that's going to produce literally a couple $1,000s a month. We don't have to figure out plans to earn 10 and 20, but if we just had a little bit of supplemental income, wherever that is, it changes things considerably in how we retire and when we could retire. I think the skewed part is we're supposed to get to a point where we retire and we don't do anything else, period. We have this, I don't know, play golf every day and volunteer or sit with the grandkids. That mentality, I think, is changing quite a bit, even amongst people that are 50, 55. That's not, the retirement that people want today. The other thing that we've done a lot of work with younger people in the sense of just conversation and experiences and that kind of stuff is the idea of doing sabbaticals, basically taking a year off and going and doing something for that year, productive or whatever it might be, or travel or whatever that might be, and then come back and say, okay, I'm not going to retire 100% and just never work again, but I got these things I want to do. So I'm going to save and I'm going to go and I'm going to live and I'm going to accomplish something that I want to accomplish that year. Then I'll come back and I know I'm probably going to have to do some more work or whatever. So I'm not thinking about it from trying to do it for 30 years. I'm just saying, hey, what if I took a whole year off and I was able to go accomplish these goals that I wanted to accomplish? So that's another thing that we're talking more about.
So you end up not just being a numbers guy. Your job is not really just about math, although I'm sure there's a lot of math involved, but in some way you become a counselor because you're helping people work through the big philosophical questions of what is happiness? What is the value of time and family, and how do I want to live, not necessarily what's it going to cost and how do I get there. That's fascinating.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of different things within that. I do think that we talk a lot about lifestyle. We talk a lot about mentality. I will say for any one of those things, there's an emotional roller coaster that you go through. Is it the right thing? I mean, people ask that question all the time. Am I ready? What am I going to do? I mean, a lot of those questions are really kind of like, we got to have a goal plan for what is our goal? What does retirement look like to you? And I know it looks different for a lot of people. A lot of people have different viewpoints on what that really is for them.
I know you go around and do a lot of speaking on these topics, to audiences, and I'm sure there's question and answer sections. I know you also take questions on your podcast. It's phenomenal, and I know that you let people send questions in, and then you can dive in to answer those questions. I'm sure for the podcast, you pick out kind of the most unique case studies and unique questions because, of course, you want to keep the content varied and be very educational. But let's turn not to the more unique questions, but what is one of the most common questions that you get over and over and over again, which means a lot of people have that question? And is there a short answer you can share with us here on the podcast today?
The most common question around retirement is a money question, and that is, how much do I need to retire? And I think that has come about because of many, there's quite a few radio personalities, TV personalities that come up with these ideas of what that number should be. In fact, I think that a major institution, Fidelity, has a thing, know your number. And they talk about that, where you can go online and you can put your number in, and they make it about that. I think that what our answer to that is, it's not so much about what is your number on how much you've saved. It's a much bigger question about how much you spend. And that is a much, much different scenario. So I think, I think the youngest generation right now, the younger generation, is probably thinking differently. But if you take, the people that are, let's say, 40 to 50, 5, somewhere in that range, there was a phase that kind of went by this whole idea of, I want the biggest house, I want the biggest, the newest car, all that kind of stuff. It seems like that's kind of shifting a little bit with the younger generation, maybe, that it's not quite as heavy that way, because what would happen is you could have a person who's making an extremely good income and they've got good cash flow, but they're spending everything coming in the door. Although they might be between a husband and a wife, or two partners, whatever it might be, having a very good amount of cash coming in every month, but every bit of it's going out the door. And so that plan is extremely difficult to try to say we're going to live that way in retirement. It's almost unrealistic. to have that be for anybody if they've got a huge spending plan. So I think that the bigger question should be, how much am I spending? Then work into, well, how much do I need to save to support that spending plan? Because those numbers can be drastically different.
That makes so much sense. And I agree with you. I've seen sort of a shift in how people spend their money. I know a lot of, they tend to be younger, but a lot of people that have become almost just huge cheerleaders for the sharing economy. And they're like, yeah, I live in the city, so I didn't buy a car because there's this app and I can just, borrow slash rent somebody's car if I need one without going to a rental car company. And oh yeah, I've never dreamed of having a second home or a vacation home, even though I make a good income, because why would I do that? There's Airbnbs everywhere that I could go stay at that are fantastic, that feel like vacation homes. They're You're right. I don't see as much sort of collecting of status symbol items and toys and, so many multiple vehicles, all of that as much. But I mean, it's probably still out there. I think it just depends who your friends are, who you hang out with, what you're exposed to. But money truly does not equal happiness. In fact, I say that a lot on our blog, on the podcast, is that money can't buy happiness. But in the hands of a happy person, there's no greater tool. I mean, you can definitely use wealth to better your life and the life of those around you and your family and build a legacy. But you should really be strategic, because those people that get the big paycheck and then it's just, burned up by the next month on things that don't create any lasting impact or wealth or legacy or anything. Yeah, that's probably not the best strategy. So do you find that you help people shift that mindset? They come to you, you discuss the budget, you see they've got this great income, but then you see where it's going out, and you can kind of read the writing on the wall that over the years they're going to just have nothing left to show for it. What does that kind of sort of come to Jesus moment feel like? Because I'm sure a lot of people are resistant to changing their lifestyle because they've gotten very comfortable.
Well, I think a lot of it, so where that's the biggest work for us is somebody who maybe is getting an exit package from their current employer because of whatever reason, downsized, sold, it could be a number of things. And the question that they're asking is, what's my next step? Do I need to go out and find another job in this arena or this field? Can I do something on the side? Like, what's my real options here? And we do it really simply. We put together a simple retirement financial plan that looks at where they're at right now. And what we find is people don't realize little differences. So somebody could say whatever they're spending. Okay. Our average person is spending around $6,000 a month of spending money, typically in retirement. But let's say that person came in and let's say they didn't have as much time as they wanted, and they're trying to make this decision on whether or not they could go ahead and call it right now and retire. And we run the numbers, and it says, if you spend, let's say the person's spending $6,500 a month, and we see that they run out of money too soon. The threat is there that they're going to run out of money. And a lot of times we'll show them a little shift can make a massive difference, especially if you've got somebody who is retiring, say at 60, 55 or 60, because you've got a long time horizon. If we run you to age 90, and we run everybody to age 90, and because nobody knows when they're going to die, nobody knows how that's going to play out. So we might as well plan for a long lifetime. And just changing it from 6,500 to 5,500, a $1,000 swing can make a tremendous difference. And the person was going to run out of money. And in this scenario, they never run out of money and everything works fine. And they go, whoa, that's crazy. And so now they just start thinking about, what do we have to do in order to, like, what would that mean for us if we stopped spending $1,000 a month somewhere? Where would that come from? We don't tell them where it should come from. They just start looking at it and going, because I always say, look, it either comes down to you need to work part-time and generate 1,000, or figure out a way not to spend 1,000. And so that's now their job. Their job now is to go home and talk and go, what do we want to do? Do we want to work part-time for a few years and be able to continue to spend like we're spending? Or do we want to start looking at what we're spending and figuring out where we can cut it? And so that becomes like a self-realization, if you want to call it, where they kind of go that Okay, this is how we're going to do it. And they get to come back, and now they have designed it. They've designed a plan that says, hey, you know what? We got looking at it. And if we did this, if we paid this off, or if we worked this long and accomplished this, it cuts that 1,000 out, changes the whole entire picture. So it's helping people realize what they got to do to be able to hit that goal that they want. And there is a bit of that is obviously, yes, financial, in order to be able to accomplish it.
And there's so much lifestyle design type, analysis that you have to do and planning, where people really get to sort of envision, okay, what's my life going to look like at that stage in my life? And I think that should be looked at as fun, because I'm sure a lot of people, when they think about, oh, I got to start retirement planning, it might be like, going to the dentist to get your teeth cleaned, or just something that's an obligation, but not necessarily something that you're looking at as a fun appointment. But maybe people should rebrand that in their own head and say, this could be really fun. I get to sit down with somebody who can guide me and coach me and figure out, what does my optimal relaxed life, or maybe it's not that relaxed. Maybe your idea of retirement is to do big hikes every day. Like, I'm not saying it has to be hanging out in a hammock or just gardening. Might be super active, but you get to have those dreams and plan and have some fun envisioning yourself. What do you enjoy doing? What do you want to do day to day? What do you want your average week to look like? And then you kind of figure out, well, what's that going to cost and how do we get there? And so the math really comes behind to support the vision, which I think is really a fun aspect of all this. So let's encourage people, start doing your retirement planning today. Like, as soon as you listen to this, give it some thought. Find a great professional like Radon's team and figure out a way to envision it and add that to your vision board. I mean, so many people right now are putting together manifestation vision boards, but I'm not sure they're focused on retirement, but that should probably be on there somewhere.
Absolutely. I think so. I mean, what you're saying and describing is, I think, the exact right thing that people should do. Because if you look at it and say, what would a retirement really consist of for you? And again, what if that were, what? I don't want to not have anything to do. But what if I only worked 24 hours a week? What if I only worked 2 days, 3 days, whatever it is? You might go, man, if I had that life, I would call that retirement. Like, that's easy stuff, to be able to just say, I could give up the hectic life and go into this other scenario of working, less. Well, now that makes a retirement plan for us pretty easy. That's actually making it, just almost a no-brainer. It changes the numbers drastically compared to the scenario of a person saying early in life, I want to go to no work, because that's expensive to do, to say I'm going to go to no work. That's what makes people work until they're 65 or so, is that they believe, well, I got to be all or nothing. I've either got to be in this job that I hate to go to work, or I'm stressed out to the hill and I can't do it. It makes me, I was telling a story and now it made me think of another unique story. We had a client come to us, and his scenario was that he had pretty significant health issues. He had had a heart attack. He was on a very high level, stressful job. But he was not, just from a numbers perspective, ready to retire yet. And we sat down and talked through a plan. He ended up leaving that corporate scenario. We figured out that he could go do something. He could figure out something to do that would earn not a ton of money, but enough that would, be able to be a supplement. And he went ahead and left that high level job, and he became a security guard. Now, this was his choosing, but it was in his head. He had heard about it and thought it would be great. And this was like a design thing. This was not like I got to do this. He thought, I love this schedule. I love this idea of being able to be around people. And he started doing it. He became like just in this like place where he said, this is what I want to do. I don't know why it drew him to it, but that's what he wanted to do. He came back after doing this for a year, and I said, how are things going? He said, my cholesterol is like so far better, because he had more time to be healthy, and his stress was way down. He said, I know by me retiring early saved my life. And so it came down to this idea of, what do I want in life? Do I want this stress so that I can get to a point where I never have to work again? Or can I rethink the equation and maybe go do something that I'm going to have a lot of fun at? And by having that fun, I end up saving my life and having a great time in life. So there's tons of stories like that.
And stress, right? It's so toxic. I mean, it might as well be arsenic or something, in teeny tiny doses. That stress does build up. And I know a lot of people that have had terrible health emergencies, and, stress was one of the potential causes and triggers for it. So I think a lot of people throw their hands up on retirement planning because they think, it doesn't really matter what I do today. There's so much uncertainty. Who knows what's going to happen with Social Security? Who knows what's going to happen with interest rates? Uh, Real estate market might be crashing. Stocks might be overpriced right now. Like, I just really don't know. So how can anybody know? And because of that, why plan? And I'll just sort of like wing it as we go. Do you find that there's a lot of that? And how do you kind of control for those variables that are just so unpredictable, really?
Well, I think, your show I know is all about the person who's kind of in all essence self-employed. That mentality of saying, I'm just going to wing it is kind of like a person saying, I'm going to go in business, but have no business plan. I'm going to have no plan as to how I'm going to grow my business. It makes sense in everything else we do in life. A person says, well, what type of career do you want to go down? You say, well, I've thought about it and I want to go down this path for my career. So I'm going to go to school and I'm going to learn this and I'm going to figure this out. And I've got that plan. Okay, well, then what are you going to do about a family? Oh, yeah, well, I've thought about that and this is what I want and this is what I'm looking for. And people plan that for everything. Where are you going to live? I'm going to live here and I've thought this out and here's why I'm going to live the way I'm going to live. But when it comes to retirement, it's almost like, yeah, well, no, that's too big of a picture. I can't go think that way. So it's stressful. The reality is, though, if a person said, I don't know, I'm 25, I'm 20, and I say, as I think it through, and I don't think that people realize that a retirement plan can be a living, breathing plan that changes. But let's just say we start saying, I want to retire and I want to have a lifestyle that supports me working part-time or being able to do this other thing. And I know it's going to take me from, let's say, 25 to 55, whatever that number is. Well, if you start planning then and you kind of have a course set, is it going to work out perfectly? Absolutely not. But nothing else is either. So let's just have something in place that's a goal to work toward, and then we readjust. If you did that, it would just make it so much easier. It's not prudent to say that I'm not going to think about the idea of what am I going to do as I get older and what is my next phase of life going to be, because obviously winging it doesn't work in anything else productively. So we might stumble into some things, but for most of us, we need to have some type of a plan, some type of a thought out process. Retirement's one of those situations.
And with everything you have going on in your own practice, because I know, you have a lot of clients, you're very busy, but how do you maintain your own sort of white space in your calendar and sanity so that you don't become so busy that even though you're helping people enjoy their lives more, you don't want to ever end up in a place where you're not able to enjoy your own life because you're helping them so much. So how do you do that? What are some of your best hacks or tips?
So I think one of the best things that we've done, and I've been doing this for a little over 20 years. I did not do this perfectly in the beginning, obviously. I did work a lot of hours, but what I learned was I did appreciate my time. I did appreciate being able to have flexibility. And the only way you can do that and grow, in my opinion, is to have other people in your life that's helping you. And that could be employees or that could be outsourcing stuff. And so that we pick and choose what we want to do in the office ourselves. So for me, we talked about the fact that I have a podcast. We talked about the fact that I go do speaking things and all that kind of stuff. But I don't do all the things around that. I have people to help support that. Now I have to make a choice. And the choice is, yes, I want to continue to grow and take care of my clients, but I have to make a choice. Do I want to I have to give away some revenue, personal revenue, in order for me to be able to accomplish those things. And I'm going to grow in the process, but I have to be willing to say, I don't need all of the money for myself. I don't need to take every bit of it for myself. So I'll outsource that instead of trying to do it in-house. And then, so we are known for, right now, we're in the process of actually looking for a financial advisor that's going to come on board with us. And our schedule is designed in such a way to have a very good balanced life. So everybody in my office, we work a normal Monday to Thursday. I call it normal 9 to 5. Friday, though, we're off at 1 o'clock. We don't work all day Friday. I personally don't come in on Fridays, period. And then we have tons of flexibility in the schedule for anybody to be able to go take care of, do anything they need to do throughout their day. We have, 2 younger people who have young children. So for them to have that flexibility, we've got it built into our practice that nobody is sitting here feeling like they're overwhelmed. And the only way you can do that is to make sure you got a good team in place. And there's so many good things that you can outsource to right now. Like for example, I'll talk about the podcast. Every bit of that now is I don't do anything other than get on the microphone and talk, and we plan what we're going to talk about. But when we're done, it's done. And from there comes a lot of things. I mean, we have a blog written every single week. We have 2 podcasts that come out every single week, a YouTube channel, all of these things. We just had a book come out, a new book, and we do right now 3 events a month. But we have a huge team, not a huge team, but a nice, good team to help us make sure all that stuff happens without me having to worry about it. Now, that took a while to get in place, but that was my goal. My goal was to be able to say, I want to make sure I got a team in place that I won't have to worry about that. And we've been able to accomplish that. Now, we do that by making sure everybody is happy and well compensated, but that makes it where I don't have to worry about it.
Thank you for that advice. Fantastic advice. Delegation, outsourcing, and creating a team. And to create a team, you also have to be a great leader. And I can sense that you are an amazing leader for your team. So thank you as well for all of the lives that you change just among your own team by providing great employment, a great boss. So, and I'm sure people appreciate those longer weekends, especially Fridays. Fridays should be a fun day. Come on, I mean, even the alliteration, Friday Fun Day, like
Right.
that's what it should be about. So how do people reach out and connect with you? You've shared so much information here, but I know there's a wealth of additional information, no pun intended, on all kinds of wealth strategies as well as retirement planning. What is the best way for people to reach out and connect with you to learn more?
I think the best way is to go to the website, which is pomwealth.net. And there's 2 places in particular. One is the podcast page, which every one of the podcasts are uploaded there. You can listen to it there or any place you listen to podcasts, but you're able to see all the different titles and shows that we have there with all the show notes. And then the other is the blog page. We do have a blog article that comes out every single week. It comes out on Wednesdays. And so there's a lot of information there on a lot of different topics. The blog as well as the podcast really hits 3 areas. It hits financial, it hits legacy. What do I want to leave behind? And that doesn't necessarily mean material wealth. It could be your wisdom that we want to leave behind. And then the third area is lifestyle. What do I want to do? What do I want my lifestyle to be when I plan for retirement? So we hit all those 3 topics.
Sounds amazing. I encourage everybody to connect with you. Radon, it has been such a pleasure to chat about all of these really important topics. I hope we have together imparted some wisdom out into the universe for anyone who's listening to take to heart and to use that wisdom to change your own lives and your path and your journey. So thank you once again for taking time out of your extremely busy schedule to be with us today.
Well, thank you again for having me on, and it was a pleasure to talk with you.